of this morning session with item 6 and 7. So there are a lot of new members and comitology might be quite complicated. So just for you to know that we are in the process of discussing an objection on an implementing act from the Commission. And you have, I guess, on your agenda the whole list of products concerned. I'm not going to read it. And we are going to organize the debate in two categories, so 6 and 7 jointly, because it's a request for objection set by the GUE as a rapporteur. You were, Ms. Azebkamp, the rapporteur for that. So I will give you the floor for 4 minutes jointly with the 6 and 7. And then, as I told, as there are a lot of new members, don't hesitate also to give background information on the process and where we are. So I give you the floor for 6 and 7 for 4 minutes as a rapporteur.
Thank you. In fact, it is not, the objections are not about all of the substances mentioned in the title. It's mainly about 2 of them, chlorotoluron and flumioxazine. And let me give you some general background information. The European legislation says that human health and the environment should be taken care of at all times. And economic interest should never prevail over the protection of the environment and public health. Shockingly, exactly this is what is happening with the renewals of these pesticides. Toxins, which are known to be harmful, stay on the European market for many years after their authorization has expired. Therefore, I object to the extension of the approval periods of flumioxazine and chlorotoluron. Flumioxazine is toxic for the reproduction and is also a known endocrine disrupting chemical. Chlorotoluron is an endocrine disruptor and causes damage to the unborn child. Both are very toxic to the aquatic life with long-lasting effects. And these facts are confirmed by EFSA and ECHA and have been laid down in the European laws since at least 4 years. These facts should have led to the withdrawal of this authorization by the Commission years ago. Article 21 in the Pesticides Regulation tells them so. But instead, they invoked Article 17 and extend the authorizations 6 times in a row. This demonstrates the Commission's fear of the mighty chemical industry, fear that they will sue. I will say to the Commission, let them try. I dare the Commission. Put the protection of our vulnerable environment and public health first, and to face the big chem in court. Because they have the scientific facts, the European Parliament and the law at their side, if they finally choose to stand up against this industry. The extensions of hazardous chemicals are in contradiction with pesticides regulation, and as only substances which are proven to be safe can be authorized. And it is in conflict with the EU's treaties, which enshrines the precautionary principle and obliges the Commission to protect our health and our environment. So, Commission, please stop allowing known harmful pesticides on our fields, on our plates, and withdraw these 2 substances from these extensions. Thank you.
Thank you. So now I'm going to give the floor to the shadows again for the joint debate on 6 and 7, starting with the EPP, so 3 minutes per group. If you have 2 shadows, one for item 6, one for item 7, then please split 1:30, 1:30. If you have only one shadow or one speaker, you have 3 minutes per group. Is it clear? So let's start with the EPP. You have 2 shadows, Christine Schneider and Michel Wizik. Up to you for 3 minutes.
Ja, vielen Dank.
Thank you very much. I can understand the reasons put forward by the rapporteur, and I share her concerns. We have here carcinogenic materials, and these should either be completely banned or limited so that the risks for human health can be ruled out. The approval of extending the approval periods, this is regulated by law, and the Special Committee on Pesticides said last year that the approval must always be based in science. When we talk about the approval of substances, this must be also harmonized better. Now, if we want to agree to 34 substances being extended in terms of their approval period, or whether they should be not renewed or taken off the list, the legal steps to follow are very clear. The Commission must extend their periods if reassessment has been completed. And this is the case here. The extensions are related or caused by delays at EFSA or the member states. And this delay on the member state side are one of the critical points on which Parliament highlighted last year. Now, the decision on extending approval periods of certain substances can take place in 3 months or in 6 months. If this happens, this could have serious consequences. It could be done in an arbitrary manner and not based on scientific evaluation. We need to ensure that our farmers have legal certainty and that they don't have to depend on damaging pesticides so they can produce healthy food. We need to protect our citizens. And for some substances, there are no replacement substances. There are also substances that come under the cut-off regulation. These are not freely available and may only be used in certain individual cases. In my opinion, the final decision by the Commission should be clear, and for this reason, I cannot agree with the position of the rapporteur. We cannot have any arbitrary banning on certain substances. Thank you.
Thank you. Was it only on item 6 or also on item 7, your political position? You want to take the floor as well? Okay. So, Mr. Wizik, please stick to 1 minute. Even if I can already warn the other groups that the SND does not have any speaker, Greens neither, ID neither. So if you want to have speaker, please raise your hands.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I will be very brief. I was the shadow reporter, so to say, for the chlorotoluron. I really understand that the process is quite complex and difficult to grasp, but what I really wanted to stress is that we cannot neglect the health impacts of these substances, and this should be taken into consideration. And I personally was for the commitment, but this is something different on the fraction level, so to say. But right now, I really think that the health and the health security should be on the first place in this case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So for SND, okay, so nobody from SND. So for Renew, two speakers, Martin Opsik and Véronique Trier-Lenoir. So, who starts?
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to start by talking about the two objections, and my colleague Martin Häusling will add some remarks. 6 of these substances are endocrine disruptors, which have potential side effects. A number have just been mentioned. One causes serious developmental issues. Also, another one has problems for reproduction. Now, a number of experts have warned about these. Many farmers have to face risks relating to these substances, and also they can be subject to neurological issues. I have seen that 17 of these substances have been subject to reservations by member states. I suggest that the European Commission present us a list of the substances classified by level of risks rather than a melting pot of products that are treated in the same way. We should all put pressure on member states who have to carry out evaluations to do these as soon as possible. For example, one of these substances has been implemented since 2002 without any further evaluation. Some MEPs have said that we can punish producers by banning substances. I am here personally to help save human lives and not to save chemical products. For all of these reasons, I'm opposed to extending the approval period for these substances, and I therefore this afternoon will vote in favour of the objection proposed by Ms. Hazekamp. Thank you. Thank you very much. Martin Häusling, please.
Chair, the foundation of the objection is obviously the health and environmental impacts of a number of the chemicals. And I will not repeat my colleague in stressing out these. I think these are really grave, and it's really a shame that what we receive is a bundle of different chemicals together, where now some of them are not such a problem, but a number of them are a serious concern and need to be phased out. I want to point out one additional challenge that we face, and that the European agriculture, the European farmers, the European citizens and environment face. What we are stifling here is also the innovation, the green innovation. What we are seeing here that the old pesticides, which we know a number of them have hazardous impact on bees, for example, that we just discussed, not just humans and other pollinators, keep on being on the market with the excuse of not having sufficient information, while we cannot get safer alternatives to replace them. That's where the problem lies. We have a system which doesn't work, and therefore I think we have to support this objection and showcase that we don't need to only get rid of the hazardous chemicals that we use as pesticides, but we need to also bring out safer alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the Greens, Michel Rivasi, for 3 minutes.
Merci.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Hazekamp for these two objections. I'm going to talk about chlorotoluene and flumioxazine. Well, the problem is that both of these substances were classified reprotoxic for both of them. Then they were classified as probably being endocrine disruptors. And people say we need to ban all of these substances, whether they are endocrine disruptors or carcinogenic. Now, they are recognized, as my colleague said, they have toxic effects on health. For years now, we have been postponing the evaluations. We need to stop here. We can't say there's a cancer epidemic in Europe. We know many cancers are caused by pesticides. I'm not saying these two in particular cause these, but public opinion wants to see pesticides stopped. What do? Well, we just keep on delaying things. We say we need to wait another year before carrying out the evaluations. When I look at chlorotoluene, there is detections in water as well. These can be found across the environment in water, for example. And on flumioxazine, for years now, this has been subject to potential replacement for years. We need to stop using these. But the Commission is always on the side of the chemical industry. You have an agency which says that it's toxic. Scientists are saying it's toxic. What are you doing? Well, you postpone the evaluations. So we need to stop using these substances which kill people.
Merci. So for ID, any speaker? No. For ECR, Mr. Vondra, for 3 minutes. For ID, sorry. No, for ECR,
I'm speaking for ECR.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, we just didn't tell you.
Please go ahead.
But, OK, the ECR opposes both the resolutions. We don't think the Commission has exceeded its implementing powers. And frankly, the draft measures are fully consistent with the legal processes specified in the Basic Act. The Commission noted in its own technical summary that the extensions foreseen in the draft regulation are necessary because it won't be possible to adopt a decision on renewal or non-renewal before the expiry date of the current approval. And that's for reasons that are beyond the control of the applicants. Now, thankfully, the Parliament does not have any veto powers over these implementing measures. And opposing the authorisation extension of these, there are 63 substances, 34 in the first implementing regulation, 29 in the second, would be an unsubstantiated ban on substances already approved for the EU market and which are in the final stages of being reapproved. Now, we all know, and particularly looking over there, those of us who sat endlessly on the Pest Committee in the last Parliament, Regulation 1107 has the most stringent regulatory reapproval system for pesticides and active substances in the world. It's a process that requires the completion of a rapporteur member state dossier, assessment report, public consultation, the EFSA conclusion, decisions from the Commission Standing Committee and the Commission itself. This can inevitably lead to delays which require a short extension, as is the case here. So in the vast majority of cases, these delays tend to be beyond the control of the applicants. And so that is why this procedure is necessary to give market certainty and to make sure that farmers and growers have those in the toolbox, have those substances in their toolbox. So the Commission's obligation to extend the approval of the active substances, such as the circumstances laid out in Article 17 of 1107, as well as the Ombudsman in her decision in case 687 of 2018. Such extensions are intended for a maximum of 1 year, and a decision on renewal or non-renewal of approval has to be adopted at the earliest possible date. So in the case of a non-renewal of the approval, the extension granted will be revoked. So finally, it's worth noting that the extensions contained in the implementing acts are not due to any concerns over the safety of these substances. Nothing to do with the safety of the substances. If there were any potentially harmful effects on human or animal health or unacceptable effects on the environment, this would trigger a process where the Standing Committee would determine whether the approval should be withdrawn. So I think that we are very foolish to be opposing the approval.
Thank you. So I will give the floor for a maximum of 5 minutes to the Commission. represented by the DG Santé and Klaus Behrens.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm sorry that my first appearance in front of the committee is all about objections. Yes. Ms. Hazekamp, to start with, first of all, let me underline that we fully agree that economic interests do not prevail in the decision-making on pesticides. And we get, I don't know how many letters on this, and nonetheless, we have adopted a number of non-renewals and withdrawals or refusals of approvals in the course of last year, and we are not afraid of the chemical industry. We are not afraid of court cases. I think we have 15 court cases at the moment ongoing, and the number keeps growing by the week. So that is of no consideration in this. So let me just underline that these extensions are indeed necessary, and we are obliged to adopt them in accordance with Article 17 of the PPP regulation, which clearly states that when the renewal procedure cannot be completed for reasons beyond the control of the applicant, the Commission shall extend the approval periods. There is no room for maneuver here, and this has also been confirmed by the Ombudsman, as referred to by Ms. McIntyre. The reasons why we are late is usually because the member states do not deliver their reports on time. And this has been highlighted by Ms. Trier-Lenoir. Let me give you the example of chlorotoluene. The dossier was submitted to the rapporteur member state Bulgaria and the co-rapporteur France on 30th of April 2015. And they should have delivered their report 1 year later, in April 2016. It has actually been delivered to EFSA just now. So more than 3 years of delay by the rapporteur and the co-rapporteur to deliver this report. This is really not the fault of the applicant. Also, just to react to one of the elements you raise in your justification, chlorotoluene met the ED criteria, the interim ED criteria, but it has not been identified as a possible ED in the study that was conducted when we proposed the criteria for the scientific criteria for identifying EDs. And for flumioxazine, please note that the RAC in ECHA agreed in March this year that it is not to be classified as reprotoxic. So that has changed in the recent past. So be that as it may, Article 17 leaves us no room for maneuver. If the procedures are not completed for reasons beyond the control of the applicant, and we have no clear indications that the approval criteria are not met, we must extend the approvals. However, we have now a case before the Parliament, and there will be a debate in the Agri Committee this afternoon, where during the assessment, at the stage of the peer review by EFSA, there are clear indications that the approval criteria are not met, and the procedure is not yet completed. And we are proposing now, for the first time, to withdraw the approval because there is sufficient evidence to do so. And that is very different for the substances that are included in the two regulations here. There, we are not at the stage yet that we have clear evidence that the approval criteria are not met. And therefore, once again, we must extend these approvals at the moment. We regret that very much. We regret very much that the member states do not deliver their work on time. Indeed, we will address this also in the refit evaluation of the regulation, that this is one of the major problems, that the member states do not respect deadlines and do not complete their work within the time foreseen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are going to vote this afternoon on these objections. So we will have the results very soon.